Wayne Dolcefino.
But let me get back to, and this goes to not only the criminality, or the potential criminality, but sort of downright, somebody called it the taint fair rule. Well, I call it the taint right rule. That if you're going to do something to a community and you're an elected public servant, then you owe them in your oath an obligation to do the right thing. To tell them the truth, the whole truth. You know, as public officials, you may do something that folks don't like, even a landfill, but you got to tell people the truth, okay? Because that's who you work for. And I think there are people in county government here who have long forgotten who they work for. And I don't necessarily mean that they've got to tell you just because you're against the landfill. They can tell people that are for the landfill. You got to tell people the truth. And I've said from the very beginning that this is not just about a landfill anymore. This is about people who keep secrets, who will lie, who will not tell you the truth about what they're doing with your money and your town. And I think it's very important for those folks who are in support of a landfill or don't care about the landfill because it ain't in their backyard. Maybe folks in the southern part of the county don't care because it's in the northern part of the county. But you know what? You should care, because people who keep secrets, who do deals behind closed doors, this time it's a landfill, next time it will be something else. But we all know there was a secret meeting, right? We all know Beckendorf was involved in it, right? Your county judge. So when the county judge says he was trying to stop his landfill, that's nonsense. We know in early May, because of the litigation, we didn't get it from the county, we got it from Pintail. Their records show there was a meeting they had with the Commissioner's Court in early May at some, I think it was the Hilton Garden Inn. And they had the meetings staggered May to 11. See, there's this little thing called the Open Meetings Act, which is a concept that apparently some folks at the courthouse have a hard time grasping. But it's if you got a quorum of commissioners, you got to do it. You got to post it. You got to do it in public. You can go in executive session, right? But you got to do it, part of it, in public. But that would have been a problem, right? Because think about that. You got to like post it, and then people will find out about the landfill, and gee, that wouldn't work. So they had to get around the act, and they thought the way to get around it was to stagger the meetings. So instead of all the commissioners meeting, they would bring them in one at a time, right? And what we call that a rolling quorum in the sort of world of people who actually know Mr. Mathis, the law. We call that a rolling quorum, and that is been ruled by the Attorney General to be a violation of state law. Now, I've talked to the special prosecutors a lot, and I asked to speak to the grand jury, right? I figured all this hemming and hawing around, right? Let's just see if we can go to the Waller County Grand Jury and get permission to talk to them. And I was granted permission. I spent a lovely hour and a half or so with them. I am not allowed under law to tell you what I said, but you know me, so you can pretty much gather what I sort of said. And I have subsequently asked for some of the grand jury to be recused, which means not part of this process. There is a mayor on there, Patterson. There's Commissioner Barnett's wife, no offense to Commissioner Barnett, but I have some words I want to say to you in a minute. And I just, whether they're with us, against us, it doesn't matter. I just don't think public officials should be on that grand jury. Because, you know, take the mayor of Patterson. I don't know if he's buddies with Mr. Kitzman or not. They could have beaten each other up at school. I have no idea, okay? But I do know that Patterson's got to come to Waller County for money. And I don't want to put the poor mayor, Mr. Matthews, in a position of having to potentially indict someone that he's got to get money from, right? So I'm doing him a favor. I'm sure he appreciates it. I just don't want to pick anyone in that position, okay? But Commissioner Barnett, if he wants to help you, ought to be yelling from the highest rooftops, what the hell are we doing? What are the lawyers doing? They should have a meeting every month. Hell, they're charging you out the kazoo anyway, rather than Mr. McGee writing these ridiculous letters every day. Why don't you have him spend his $200 to come down here for an hour and explain, what are you doing? Because, when you look at 2012 records from Pintail, you find out, remember all that stuff where they came up here and Mr. McGee or Mr. Allison was, they came up there and gave you that big speech in 2012, they were going to fight this landfill, and they were the big bad law firm from Austin, and they were going to fight this thing, right? I think it was July 2012. Well, if Pintail records are accurate, there were these little secret meetings going on at the same time, right? Judge Beggendorf and Commissioner Pekluda, Commissioner Kitzman, and while they were telling you they were going to fight, they're meeting with these people that you're supposedly fighting with, that you're in litigation potential with, and discussing the negotiation of this host agreement, right? While you're paying for lawyers to fight it, they're selling you out. And that's not me saying it, that's just the facts. That's not just the facts, ma'am. That's just what happened. Okay? And so it's time for the public officials in Waller County, whether it be the district attorney, or the special prosecutors, it's time for people to say, let's tell the truth. I don't know what the reason is people sold you out, but I am convinced they did. And I know now, based on the documents I have seen and the documents that have been withheld from me, that Judge Beggendorf did not tell you the truth.
My wife was chosen to be on the grand jury. My wife has spent 28 years of her life as a law enforcement officer. And if anyone think or have the audacity to think that she is not going to do the proper thing, then Hades is where, as far as I'm concerned, that individual who thinks that way could go. Now, I'm teed off. Because if you think that I'm going to fight the way you want me to fight, no, my strategy is not going to work the way your strategy worked for you. When this landfill issue is settled, when this thing is won, and the opposition has lost, we still have to run this county. So that is going to be done. Now, put that in your pipe and smoke.
Well, I think that was directed at me, so I'll respond. This isn't meant to tee anyone off, and I'm sorry you're teed off. In Harris County, in Houston, there are law enforcement people on grand juries all the time. And when there is a police shooting case before a grand jury, those law enforcement officers, who may be the most honest guys in the world, are recused from the grand jury discussion of that case. When it happens all the time, in cities, it is not even whether or not they have a conflict, it is the potential perception by some that they'll have a conflict. And it's not even a conflict suggesting that they're all of a sudden in bed with them. It is, quite honestly, take the commissioner's spouse who's on the grand jury. Now, the commissioner's spouse has to worry not only about doing the right thing, but has to worry about, and it's not even fair to make her worry about it, is what if, God forbid, you have to indict some of these fellow county commissioners, the county judge? What if you have to vote that way? Okay? It's an
way, Wayne. That's the law, buddy.
I understand that's the law. Commissioner, with all due respect, there is a reason why there's alternate grand jurors. It is to avoid it's not a criticism of anyone. Like I said, Mayor Matthews of Patterson Commissioner Kitzman could have been his lifelong enemy. They could have hated each other in school. They could have both liked the same girl at high school. I don't know. I'm simply saying that as a public official who has to deal with them, they should excuse themselves from the discussion of whether or not there should be a criminal investigation. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but I will tell you, and you know this as a law enforcement officer, that when you have a police shooting cases, the law enforcement people are recused from that grand jury decision.
My name is John Amsler. I'm Waller County Commissioner, Precinct 1. As you can see, maybe you can come to the same conclusion that I have. I was born and raised in Waller County. I was a little bitty kid here. I'm tired of this. And maybe you've come to the conclusion that I have a long time ago. Some of our politicians are like vampires, werewolves, and feral hogs. Come nighttime and in the dark, they do a tremendous amount of damage. And the only way that we're going to have any significant protection from them is to keep the lights on them at all times. And Commissioner Barnett, I challenge what you say, sir.
Thank you.
I have consistently gone before Commissioner's Court raising the issue of those records repeatedly. I have asked you to join me and you have refused.
The special prosecutors, you know this because you got a copy of it, have put the if 30 days, right? Or face a civil lawsuit. You know this. Now, is it
I'm not worried about it because I don't have anything as far as it's not going to affect me. When I say I'm not worried, it's not going to affect me because I don't care what they do, Wayne. I'm going to vote against it anyway.
No. The attorney, no. It's the special prosecutors have said if we don't get these records in 30 days, we are going to file a lawsuit against Waller County. And we will make Waller County pay legal fees. Now, that's Waller County. That's your taxpayers' money that they're threatening. I'm not threatening. I threatened all I can in 6 months. I mean, right? You've seen the letter. Special prosecutors have told you.
Let me.
So you're not doing this for me. You're doing this for your people to say, you know what? I don't want to pay any more money with this nonsense.
The thing about this is it. It isn't that it isn't being done, okay? And I think the reality of the fact is this, that even with it being done, we're still being outnumbered while it's being done.
Again, this is going to be needless money spent over any this issue. I went to the grand jury, okay? Now, I can't tell you what I told the grand jury, but the way the grand juries work is that there is a vote, generally, as to whether or not they want to proceed with an investigation. I can't discuss if I know stuff about people in the grand jury or what those people may have said after I left, because then I would be revealing that I knew something that I probably can't reveal. But it is the grand jury, and the makeup of the grand jury is an important part of this. You know, this is a rural county. A lot of folks on the grand jury are people that are big people or know people or kinfolk or people, or, you know, it's just the way it is. And so that's why and I've asked the special prosecutors and the judge. I met with Judge McKay, in fact, and I said I would be glad to have a formal hearing. I believe that grand jury that anyone who's a public official or a relative should be recused. So folks who aren't entangled, and I don't mean it's a bad thing or a good thing, can decide this. But it's up now to the grand jury to decide as to whether or not they want to proceed. Now, having said that, the special prosecutors, look, I look at this information we have and I say I could indict them. Okay? At the very least, I'd like to see them testify for a grand jury. I mean, I testified because I asked for permission to go, and apparently the grand jury decided to let me come. I didn't go because some prosecutor said, hey, Wayne, we want you to tell this grand jury what you found. I'm not casting any aspersions yet on the special prosecutors, but I will if I need to. I'm just saying that this is not a case, this is me saying I want to tell them because I'm trying to jumpstart someone to do something that needs to be done. This meeting in May of 2011 with the commissioners, if that's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act, I'm not sure what is. There are meetings going on right now. When I gave my request, I gave it to Beckendorf, Bakluta, Kitzman, right? I get a letter from Allison Bass. So I said, well, that's kind of a coincidence that the three of you go to Allison Bass, and if the three of you did that, then that's a quorum, that's a violation of the law. Now, I'm a stickler for these kind of things, and Glenn and I deal with it every day, but that's what we're dealing with here. And it's not just little things. You have 3 members of Commissioners Court who have now see themselves, you as the enemy, and they are going to fight this because they sold this thing early on.
When will the grand jury come to a decision?
Well, I think they meet once a month, and so it should be in a couple more weeks. I have formally requested the special prosecutors seek recusal of anyone in the grand jury who's a public official. I spoke to the judge about it. He prefers I go through the prosecutors. The judge doesn't want to know anything about this. I mean, he's got civil litigation involved in this. He doesn't, and he's doing the honorable thing. I have not heard back from the special prosecutors, who are probably sick of me anyway. So hopefully in the next month we'll know.